I was crying, dripping tears into my book because I just thought it was over for me. I thought all my hard work from jumping 4'8" in high school to now jumping 7 feet and being really good, I thought it was over. And my academic advisor walked in and he was like, "Dontavious, what's wrong?" And I looked up at him and I said, "I'm not going to make it." I really was on my last leg of thinking I'm done. And what he told me was, in this moment, even though you may have not done the exams well in the past, whatever mistakes you've made, all you have is right now. And you have 10 days to study. So in this moment, I just want you to give your best. And at the end of this, you can hold your head high because your best is not determined based on whether you pass this exam. It's based off of what you gave, of what you had. I went in, I studied for 10 days as hard as I could, eight to 10 hours a day. It was crazy. And I ended up passing that exam by 1 point. And that changed my life. And from that point, I did everything. I made Team USA, became an All-American, was top 25 in the world, top 3 in the US. Everything in my career happened and was defined by that one moment where I was done. And I felt like I couldn't go.
Dontavious, you're a multiple All-SEC and All-American standout from Auburn University and currently a Team USA professional high jumper. On top of that, you're coaching the next generation of high jumpers. Most people will never know what it's like to clear a bar at 7'5". So I have to ask, what does it actually feel like to fly?
Sam, I appreciate you. I'll say, what does it feel like to fly? I'll say, man, when you're out there jumping, as soon as you leave the ground, it's almost as though you just kind of float. It's like an unreal feeling, to clear bars in a high jump because, most high jumpers will say as soon as they leave the ground, they know they're about to get over a bar. And that's exactly the feeling. It's like an effortless feeling.
And when did you fall in love with high jumping?
I'll say I fell in love with it probably my sophomore year in high school. My freshman year was my first year doing it. My older brother did it the year before I did, and he was really good at it. His PR was 6'4", and I just started doing it as a sophomore. Jumped 4'8" as a freshman, 5'10" as a sophomore, and just kept going from there.
Your journey didn't start so smoothly. You posted that you struggled with mental blocks and confidence early on. What were some of those mental blocks?
Yeah, a lot of those came from just confidence. I played a lot of sports growing up, rode the bench a lot in football, basketball, and wasn't really given any opportunities because I was just too small and wasn't athletic. So I really had this struggle of like, am I worthy? Will people ever be able to count on me? So that's where a lot of that came from. And high jump ended up being a way to kind of break through that because it's not a team sport. It's an individual sport. I didn't have to rely on coaches to put me in the game or teammates to pass me the ball. And I could focus on myself and I was able to make my own improvement.
What are some of the things that you think helped start building your confidence?
I would say blocking out everything else that was happening around me. When I was younger, I used to focus a lot on other people and want to be like others or be as good as others. But whenever I started to just focus on my own journey and say, okay, I may not be jumping as high as the next guy or this person, but I've gotten better than what I was before. And whenever I started to focus on those kind of things, I could keep my own bubble of confidence and feeling good about myself. And that's when I really started to realize, what life was about individually when you're leading your own path.
Do you ever feel like you became addicted to the progress that you were making?
Yeah, for sure. In high school, like high jump is one of those events where it's like a dopamine hit of like when you get a PR. You always want to PR as many times as you can. Like if you look at some of the high schoolers, that even reach out to me, they always want a PR. They're ready to get it now because it's like if they haven't had one in the 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they just feel like something is wrong. But the higher you get in the sport, the more difficult it becomes to PR. But yeah, man, I definitely got addicted to PR and wanted to just get one every meet and things like that.
And you end up having a ton of success at Auburn where you're constantly surrounded by teammates and friends and coaches. Can you talk about the transition to becoming a professional where it's a little bit more lonely?
Yeah, so Auburn was great. I love Auburn University. They treated me well and I had a great career there. Ended up becoming a 5-time All-American at Auburn, became a 4-time SEC Silver Medalist, and was able to make 3 USA teams while I was there. But that transition from college to professional, it was drastic. My transition actually came during the Olympic year, 2024. So I graduated Auburn in 2023. I had all the support of my teammates and my coaches, nutrition. You have everything you could ask for. But as a professional, I'm on my own. My first year out, I had graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, worked as an engineer, and I decided to move from Auburn to the Georgia area. A lot of professionals, they'll sometimes stay at their collegiate school so they can have support, but I moved. And it was just difficult, man, just being on my own after leaving that structure.
And where are you going now with the sport?
So right now, I'm truly trying to focus on just building up the youth, the next generation of high jumpers. It's something that I've done pretty much the past six years, but I used to build them up in a sense of motivation and inspiration, and just try and get them to believe in themselves. And that was really how I built my platform and was able to reach millions of people to share that story and inspire others. But now, not only trying to inspire, but trying to coach them and help them more. I put out so much content. Like, I'm trying to put out unlimited content because I want whenever a kid comes to my social media platforms, they will get better in the sport just from seeing videos. But my goal is to help as many athletes as I can get better in high jump, as many kids from professional, college, high school, middle school. It doesn't matter. Just want to help them get better.
I experienced this myself and talking to other athletes. When you start to coach others, you start to see things from another perspective. So, what are some of the things that you've learned by coaching others?
I can't give them too many pointers to the point where it's going to overload their mind, right? And I can relate to that concept because that's something that I appreciated when I was competing in college. Rather than most of the technical feedback, I just want to be told I can do it. So for the kids I coach, I mostly try and just speak life into them and get them to believe in themselves. And that does a whole lot more than a technical fix or getting stronger in the weight room ever could. So that's one thing I really focus on, which is originating from the heart and the mind for the athletes.
Hey, quick pause. If this conversation is providing you value, please take literally 5 seconds and hit that follow or subscribe button on your app. This is the best way to make sure that you don't miss any value from future episodes. Now back to the conversation. What do you think are some of the things that stop athletes, either the ones that you're coaching or in your own experience, from believing in themselves?
One thing is comparison, whether it's comparison to others around you, which is the most common, or even just comparison to oneself. One thing that we talk about in high jump or track and field are PRs, and PRs is personal record for short. And I tell my athletes, like, your PR on paper is just what you've done on paper. You have to have the belief that you're better than what you've ever put out. And if you have that belief, then you will be able to perform as such. But I feel like a lot of athletes and just people in general, we limit ourselves to what we've done, or, or limit ourselves to those around us. Oh, they're better than me. They're always going to be that. Or I jump this is what I'll always jump. We have to surpass that first by understanding we're more than that. And that's what I believe.
I agree 100%. How much in high jump do you think is impacted by that belief? For example, if you see yourself, if your identity is, I don't know, a 6-foot jumper, right? And that's all you see yourself as. How much do you think an athlete like that is limiting themselves physically?
It's almost, if you believe, that you are what you've done, it's like it's the most limiting, shackling thing you can possibly have. And that's why a lot of kids get stuck at a 6-foot bar on the boy side or 5 feet bar on the girl side because they seem like monumental bars. That's why a lot of kids can't get to 7 feet, even if they're really talented, because it seems monumental. They shackle themselves down to it's like, I can't achieve that thing because it's so great. And they're identifying as less than that. And yeah, and on the flip side of that, Sam, if an athlete identifies themselves as more, for example, I got the opportunity during the Olympic year to attempt the world record opening height of 7'8 1/4. And my PR was 7'5", but I opened height 3 inches above that. And I was able to get some height on that kind of bar, right? That's a world-class height, would have gotten third in the Olympics. But if I wasn't identifying myself as a 7'8" or 7'7" jumper, I wouldn't have come close. But I was identifying myself as that, even though I had only jumped 7'5" on paper and was able to pretty much shock the world, even with 3 misses.
I love that. And I know there's a lot of paradoxes in sports. How do you balance the belief side with the overconfidence side?
One thing about that, Sam, is all about perspective. Some people will say some overconfidence can come off as cocky or arrogant, but you know, the truth is it depends on who's looking at it, right? Some people will think, oh, this is a good thing. Some people think it's a bad thing. But the truth is, I want my athletes to be overconfident. You don't have to, you don't have to put others down to be confident. You can lift yourself up. And if that makes others uncomfortable for you to lift yourself up, then that's something that we'll have to deal with because that's just going to be life. But I definitely want my athletes to be overconfident and have unlimited self belief.
And you're a high performer yourself and an expert coach. If you had to narrow it down, what would you say are your three most important habits?
I'll say the ability to plan, and I'm talking journaling, writing things down, understanding what I'm about to do. So planning, I'm going to put that right in the category of goal setting in a sense, but we can call those two planning, goal setting, and I guess I'll say routine. That also falls into the same line. As you can see, I'm very system based. I want to get reps. I want to get repetition. I want to do things over and over again and master them. And that is what I did in the high jump. And that is what I coach my athletes to do. And more than anything with that repetition, Sam, it's not just physical things, it's mental things too, whether it's visualizing, positive self talk, things like that. But definitely system based are all my top three habits.
And I firmly believe that's how the highest performers get consistent results by having a system to fall back on. You mentioned the mental side. So, what if your mind started racing during a meet? What system would you fall back on to quickly reset mentally?
So I would definitely try to breathe. One thing I feel like I forget to do a lot is breathe when I'm competing. I know a lot of athletes probably do too. So first off, breathing and then also referring back to things that I wanted to do. So usually when I go into a competition, I've set goals for myself, whether it's physical, I want to jump a certain height, but also mental. I want to smile before every jump. I want to make sure that I'm breathing to relax myself. I want to tell myself I can do it multiple times before I go jump. So I want to rely on things that are going to build me up in a positive way.
And if you could put one sentence on a billboard that every young athlete had to drive past on their way to practice, what would it say?
It would say, never give up.
I love that. Nice and simple, which leads to my next question. So what does simple wins mean to you?
I'll say simple wins to me means giving your best, right? What that means to me, Sam, if I could tell you a quick story, one story that I shared to my athletes and parents. But basically, when I was a freshman in college, I came close to failing out of Auburn because I was in an engineering major. It was very difficult for me. And I almost was going to be ineligible for my freshman year after just breaking the freshman record at Auburn. And I had one class left and I had one exam left and I had failed the first two. And I went to the study hall one day and I was looking down at my book and I just burst into tears. I was crying, dripping tears into my book because I just thought it was over for me. I thought all my hard work from jumping 4'8" in high school to now jumping 7 feet and being really good, I thought it was over. And my academic advisor walked in and he was like, Dontavious, what's wrong? And I looked up at him and I just said, I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it. Okay. Cause I really was on my last leg of thinking I'm done. And what he told me was in this moment, even though, you may have not done the exams well in the past, whatever mistakes you've made, all you have is right now. And you have 10 days to study. So in this moment, I just want you to give your best. And at the end of this, you can hold your head high because your best is not determined based on whether you pass this exam. It's based off of what you gave of what you had. Okay. So Sam, I went in, I studied for 10 days as hard as I could, eight to 10 hours a day. It was crazy. And I ended up passing that exam by 1 point. And that changed my life. And from that point, I did everything. I made Team USA, became an All-American, was top 25 in the world, top 3 in the US. Everything in my career happened and was defined by that one moment where I was done and I felt like I couldn't go. So to replace that billboard, your best is enough is what I would want on that billboard.
Wow, That is an incredible story, and man, I can feel it coming out of your heart. That was such an important point in your life, and I appreciate you sharing that. Without even being one of your coaching clients, I feel like just hearing that story and you pouring your heart out is a great starting point to something incredible. So I appreciate you inspiring others, even if I'm not a high jumper myself, man. I realize the value of good coaches in the world, and you just poured your heart into that. So thank you.
I appreciate you, man.
Dontavious, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Dontavious Hill, on TikTok at Dontavious Hill 3, and on YouTube at Dontavious Hill.
Appreciate your time today, man.
Sir, appreciate you as well.
I have one final question for you. Who else would benefit from listening to this conversation? If you have someone in mind, go ahead and share the episode with them right now. If you don't think of anyone immediately, go ahead and leave us a review on whatever platform you're on so people just like you can find the episode. Thank you for your time. Stay strong.